One morning, while walking through the halls, Yu, the prettiest girl in the class, passes by Maki with her group by her side. Umi, the second prettiest girl, turns her head and quietly smiles at Maki. Maki looks at his phone where they chat, hiding their friendship. During his first day of class, Miki, their new homeroom teacher, introduced herself to everyone. She then handed out sheets of paper and asked the students to write down their personal profiles. The moment he received the paper, Maki was reminded why he truly disliked spring. After collecting the completed sheets, Miki randomly selected one so the class could begin introducing themselves. Unfortunately, it was Maki's sheet. He nervously stood up from his seat as Miki began reading aloud the information he had written. When she asked how he liked to spend his weekends, he admitted that he looked forward to them, because his mother was usually out of the house. That meant he could play video games on the big screen and order whatever food he wanted. Miki then tried to get him to share what types of movies he enjoyed watching. He confessed that he liked shark movies and alligator movies, which immediately caught Umi's attention. Next, Yu's name was called. Unlike Maki, she energetically stood up and confidently introduced herself to everyone. Miki asked about her unusual hair color, and Yu explained that she inherited it from her grandmother who had lived abroad. She also shared that she had previously attended an all-girls middle school but decided to transfer to a co-ed high school for a change of pace alongside her best friend. As she said this, she suddenly wrapped her arms around Umi, making it clear that Umi was the friend she had been referring to. Yu then tried to encourage Umi to introduce herself next, and the teacher agreed to let her go ahead. Umi calmly stood up and introduced herself as Yu's former classmate. She even mentioned that since they were classmates again, she hoped everyone would kindly look after Yu in her place. Yu immediately complained that Umi had made her sound like an abandoned dog. From his seat, Maki overheard several boys whispering about how cute both Yu and Umi were. Listening to their comments, he quietly realized that these two girls would likely become the highlight of the class. Later during lunch, Yu and Umi quickly blended in with their new classmates, while Maki slipped outside to eat his lunch alone. As the days passed, Yu and Umi gradually assimilated into their social circles. Meanwhile, Maki continued spending most of his free time at home. After class, Maki quietly lamented how much he truly wanted a friend. Still, he tried to convince himself that he was perfectly fine on his own. By the end of the week, Yu and Umi chatted cheerfully at Umi's desk. Maki was in his seat scrolling through his phone when he overheard a group of boys from his class comparing Yu and Umi. Meanwhile, Umi politely rejected Yu's invitation to hang out, explaining that there was a movie she wanted to watch. Yu immediately tried to insist that she could come along and watch it, but her enthusiasm faded when Umi showed her the poster of the movie. Yu attempted to hide her reaction, but Umi already knew Yu would probably find the movie boring, which was exactly why she had decided to watch it by herself. As the two girls walked past him, Maki caught a glimpse of the movie poster on Umi's phone. He kept quiet while they were still in the classroom, but after they left, he found himself thinking that Umi's taste in movies was good. On his way home, Maki noticed a group of friends. Watching them made him wonder what it felt like to have some. He stepped into a nearby video rental shop to look for a movie to watch. He first picked up an old zombie film, but soon decided against it and moved to another rack. His hand accidentally bumped into someone else. He quickly apologized, and it was only when the other person began speaking that he realized it was Umi. Umi commented that this was the first time they had actually spoken to each other, even though they had been classmates since the start of spring. Trying to deflect the conversation, Maki mentioned that he had assumed she already had plans for the day. His comment amused Umi, and she playfully teased him for eavesdropping. Maki immediately apologized, but Umi reassured him that she had only been joking. She admitted that they had been speaking loudly anyway and even offered a light apology on Yu's behalf. Even so, Maki insisted that he was the one at fault for listening in. That was when Umi revealed that her real goal that day had actually been to find a chance to talk to him. To prove her point, she showed him her profile sheet from their first day of class. Maki was surprised to see that many of the things written on her sheet were very similar to his. However, Umi confessed that she had not written those answers on the first day. Instead, after hearing Maki introduce himself, she realized that she could relate to him more than she expected. She then asked which movie he would recommend to her. Maki humored her by choosing one of his personal favorites. Umi laughed when she saw the cover, clearly amused by how the piranhas were depicted as fierce man-eaters. She commented that the design was very effective at grabbing attention. As their conversation continued, Maki gradually felt himself becoming more comfortable talking with her. She later mentioned that she had enjoyed watching Kung Fu Shark, which immediately impressed Maki since he liked that movie. That's when he became friends with Umi. At present, Umi arrives at his apartment looking completely at ease as she casually sets down the snacks she bought along the way. She immediately asks what he ordered for dinner. Maki begins reciting the order, with Umi confidently guessing at the same time. When the pizza arrives, Maki starts setting up the game console because he wants to play some PvP matches with Umi. Umi lights up with excitement, already convinced that she will win. However, Maki quickly reminds her that she lost badly the previous week. Umi insists that she trained after that defeat, confidently declaring that she will be able to even the score today. They spend several long hours gaming, and it gradually becomes clear that Umi is not winning. At the final round, she ends up losing. Frustrated, she nearly hits the floor in defeat. Umi pouts and demands that they switch to a different game. They continue playing into the evening, but eventually decide to call it a day. Maki begins cleaning up, and Umi insists on helping, but Maki tells her that he can handle it on his own. As he turns toward her, he suddenly stops and stares when he notices her bent over. Umi immediately teases him for checking her out. Maki quickly tries to explain that he was only wondering how she manages to stay so slim. Umi smirks and says that he is actually the one starting to get a little plump. She reaches out and lightly presses his stomach, causing him to let out a surprised sound. Seeing his reaction, she smiles mischievously and suddenly grabs his sides, tickling him. Maki struggles not to laugh as Umi states that this is her way of relieving stress. Before leaving, Umi casually comments on how surprising it is that they get along so well. Maki responds that aside from their similar tastes, he still thinks she is a little strange for approaching him in the first place. Umi quickly fires back that he is the weird one for suggesting they hang out at his apartment. Maki argues that the only activity he could think of was playing games together. That is when Umi suddenly suggests that on Friday they should go out somewhere. Maki casually agrees at first, but it takes a moment for her words to fully sink in. He quickly rushes toward the door and calls out to her, asking for clarification. Umi explains that she wants them to spend time outside for a change because she believes experiencing life like a normal high school student would be good for him. She lists a few simple ideas, such as going shopping, eating out, or visiting an arcade. She also admits that she feels a little bad for always imposing on him and spending time at his place, so she has decided to take it upon herself to teach him how to have fun outside the house as well. Wanting to be sure, Maki carefully asks if it will just be the two of them hanging out together. Umi immediately agrees, reminding him that they have not told their classmates that they are friends. Maki recalls that this was something they agreed on from the start. They are complete opposites, and if others discovered their friendship, it could easily lead to rumors and unnecessary trouble. When Maki remains quiet for a moment, Umi suddenly teases him, saying that he looks nervous about their upcoming date. Her teasing does little to calm him down. Noticing his reaction, Umi reassures him that she will make sure no one from their class finds out about their outing. Even so, Maki still doubts that her plan will work. Umi begins walking away from the apartment and casually tells him to trust her a little more. Then, just before leaving, she jokingly adds that if someone does happen to see them together, they can always come clean and admit that they are dating. Maki immediately blushes and points out that they are not dating at all. Umi bursts into laughter and admits that she was only joking before finally heading home. Later, Masaki, Maki's mother, stares at him in disbelief after he tells her that he plans on going out with a friend on Friday. Maki asks if he can have a little more allowance for that day. However, Masaki immediately jumps to the wrong conclusion and assumes that he is being bullied and forced to give someone money. Maki quickly explains that he really does have a friend and that the person he is meeting is not imaginary. The moment she realizes that her son actually has a real-life friend, Masaki feels as if a heavy weight has been lifted from her chest. Her expression softens and she decides to give him more money for the outing. But when Maki looks at the amount she offers, he argues that the bill he handed her is already too much. Even so, she gently tells him to let her know if he needs more later. Masaki then smiles warmly at Maki, genuinely happy that he has finally made a friend. The next morning, Maki sends a message to Umi. Almost immediately, she replies and asks if he managed to get the extra funds he needed. When he confirms that he did, Umi playfully teases him, saying that Friday should be his treat. Maki quickly insists that they split the cost since this is not a date. They both agree on that arrangement, and before ending the conversation, Umi sends him one last message saying that she will see him at school later. When Maki arrives in class, Umi is already chatting with her usual group of friends. During their conversation, Umi apologizes to them for missing the live streaming of an episode they had planned to watch together. She casually claims that she was busy the night before, searching for something online. While saying this, she discreetly sends a signal behind her back toward Maki, silently acknowledging that she had actually spent that evening with him instead. Some of the girls begin to notice the strange movement, so Umi quickly covers it up by pretending to scratch her back. Hearing Umi lie about their friendship causes a strange feeling to stir inside Maki. Later that day, Maki eats lunch alone as usual. As he sits there, he suddenly hears Umi's voice nearby speaking with a male senior student. Curious, he cautiously peeks in their direction and quickly gets the impression that the senior is about to confess his feelings to her. Realizing he might get discovered, Maki hurriedly starts packing up his things so he will not get caught watching. Just as he is about to leave, Yu and Nina come running toward his location. They stop when they notice him. Nina does not immediately recognize Maki as one of their classmates, But after Yu quickly explains who he is, the two girls ask if he can let them pass because they want to spy on Umi. Before he can properly react, both girls grab hold of him and pull him back to his earlier hiding spot. And just as they suspected, the senior begins trying to ask Umi out. Umi decides to turn the boy down, and the boy asks if it's because she currently likes someone. However, Umi denies liking anyone. Nina sighs since she knew Umi would turn the boy down, as the boy is also known for being a player. Yu apologizes to Maki for the girl talk and shares that the boy also asked her out before. Maki doesn't mind but admits he is surprised to see Yu eavesdropping. Yu explains that it's only because Umi is her best friend. With that settled, Umi decides to leave, not wanting to stay with the senior any longer than she should. Since Umi is heading out, the girls decide to leave as well. Yu shocks Maki by asking for his phone and leaving her number on it. When they leave, Maki feels a bit troubled because he now has to keep more secrets. After class, Umi is hanging out in Maki's apartment where he shares that he knows she had been asked out earlier. He apologizes for eavesdropping but explains that he was there for lunch. He grows curious and asks if Umi is actually popular. Umi admits that she is, but not as popular as Yu. She then wonders if Maki is curious about being popular, to which he denies, saying that to him, being popular seems troublesome. However, Umi urges him to explain. Maki gives in and admits that he is curious because he can't really picture what being popular is like. He knows it involves people following someone around, and it also means the person needs to develop relationships with others of different personalities. However, he is sure that popular people would have to deal with people they don't like. To him, having to fend those people off sounds like a pain. He admits he is lonely, but he feels it is better than dealing with those types of annoyances. Umi says she understands his way of thinking but tells him that he worries too much. However, she adds that it's also why she likes him, though she quickly clarifies that she likes him as a friend. Maki teases back that he also finds Umi likable as a friend. They go back and forth, with Umi even teasing that Maki would be lonely without her, which makes him fire back that Umi can only be herself around him. They then grab the controller, ready to play the rest of the day away. He smiles at her because he knows he would be alone without her. A week passes, and it is now Friday, the day they agreed to hang out outdoors for once. Maki sees Umi make an excuse from her friends so she can leave ahead of them, and it seems like she's struggling to hide her excitement. Nina playfully teases her, saying she must have gotten herself a boyfriend. However, Yu frets over the possibility. Umi lightly hits her on the head, reminding her that she would have said so if that were the case. While she busies herself with her friends, Maki makes a move to leave. After changing his attire, he waits for Umi at the station, fretting over his clothes. He is surprised when Umi suddenly puts a hand on his shoulder to announce her arrival. She is dressed casually, which surprises Maki for some reason, and she chuckles at him because he is wearing an all-black outfit. She decides that his poor taste in choosing clothes can be excused for the first time, but warns him that next time he should dress better. As she walks away, Maki is shocked that she casually mentioned a next time. He catches up to her, pointing out that he is surprised she came so early because they weren't supposed to meet until later. Umi claims she did it for his sake because she knew Maki would arrive early and feel awkward. They first enter a shop with anime-related items that Maki frequently visits. Umi admits she usually goes to different stores since Yu and the others don't come here, so she's thankful for the change of pace. As they talk, Umi gradually gets annoyed and suggests they speak more casually. When Maki tries dropping the honorifics from her last name, she pouts and shyly corrects him, stating that she wants to be called by her first name. Maki is surprised and argues that he'll only do it if she also calls him by his first name. Umi averts her eyes and says that they aren't that close yet, which makes Maki argue that she isn't being fair if he has to call her by her first name. However, the argument works and Maki ends up speaking to her more casually. She even teases that she'll accompany him to the adult section, which he is automatically against. They stop for lunch at a burger joint and Maki asks if she's seen any good movies lately. Umi shares that she recently got into Angel Sharks, where there is a shark that wreaks havoc because it can fly out of the water using angel-like wings. She says the CGI is horrible, but it's still an amusing watch. Maki gets excited because now he is interested. This makes Umi beam and suggests that they make a plan next week to watch it together. Maki asks if it's really okay for her to make weekly plans with him. Umi replies that it's fine because she doesn't usually hang out with her friends on Fridays anyway. Suddenly, a few tables away, some girls from their school recognize Umi and start gossiping about her. To them, Umi doesn't look particularly striking as the rumors suggest. Umi suddenly gets an idea and asks Maki to embarrass himself a little for her sake. Without further explanation, she suddenly pretends that they are on a date and loudly offers to feed him a fry. This shocks Maki and the girls nearby. Maki is confused and frozen, so Umi kicks him under the table to signal him to play along. Hitting the hint, he follows her lead and feeds her one of his fries. The girls give them odd looks, convinced that the girl they are seeing isn't actually Umi, since they believe Umi would never date someone who looks like Maki. This somehow insults Umi and she stands up, ready to confront the girls, but Maki quickly manages to calm her down. To cool off, she tells Maki that she wants to visit the arcade, and the two of them end up having a good time trying out different games there. They even try the batting range where Umi manages to hit the ball, but Maki completely misses. After playing, they decide it's about time to head home, but Umi makes a quick stop at the restroom first. Maki feels that the day is surreal because he never thought he would hang out with Umi in public like this. He feels grateful for that first day of class after all. Suddenly, Yu and her other friends spot him, and he is shocked to see them there. Nina forgets who he is again and has to be reminded by Yu. Maki tries not to panic as Yu notices that he's waiting for someone, so he quickly calls Umi so she can hear that Yu is there. When Umi answers the phone, she hears Yu's voice on the other end. Maki, on the other hand, tries to grab Umi's bag and excuse himself, but Yu insists that he and his friend, whom she doesn't realize is Umi, hang out with them. Nina tries to talk Yu out of it, attempting to dodge the fact that she and the others don't really want to hang out with Maki. However, Yu suddenly suspects them of thinking badly of him, and Maki finally understands why Umi doesn't want to hang out with them on Fridays. He decides to turn down Yu's invitation, stating that as much as he wants to have fun with a group, he is aware that not everyone can get along easily. He fears that he might bring the mood down because he is the type who gets tired if he forces himself to act cheerful around people he isn't comfortable with. With everyone looking at him, he suddenly adds that he made plans to spend time with his friend, so he intends to stick to that plan, then quickly runs away. He meets up with Umi at the station and she thanks him for bailing her out. She then talks about why she can't talk about her hobbies with her friends. Back in middle school, she was sort of the leader of her group. People relied on her to keep things in order, mainly because people listened to her because she was cute. At first, she loved the role and did things to please everyone, but gradually she realized that her friends didn't appreciate her as much as she thought. She admits that she felt lonely because no one could relate to her, and talking about her hobbies might ruin her reputation. Eventually, she began to wish for a friend she could openly talk to about her interests. It took her a lot of courage to approach Maki because he was going to be the first male friend she would ever have. At one point, a seat becomes available during a stop, and they argue briefly over who should sit down. Umi insists that Maki take it because she is more physically fit than he is. When he finally sits, she apologizes for what he went through with Yu. She knows Yu would probably feel upset and might think Maki dislikes her, so she promises to smooth things over. She even shows him a message Yu sent about her encounter with Maki. Maki feels that he should be the one apologizing to Umi for causing trouble, but she tells him that since they are friends, it's normal for them to do things for each other. She then begins patting his head affectionately, noticing that he is starting to get drowsy. Umi encourages him to sleep, promising to wake him in time for their stop. When he finally dozes off, Umi quietly tries using his first name. On Monday, Yu immediately apologizes to Maki, and everyone begins looking in their direction because they didn't expect Maki and Yu to ever interact. Maki reassures her that she did nothing wrong and notices that other students are now staring at them. Yu asks if this means they are okay, and he confirms that they are. Yu beams and suddenly asks if they can hang out later because she wants to get to know him better. Maki decides that it's fine, and Yu promises to use the number he gave her the other day. People nearby seem to overhear this and are shocked that Maki actually has Yu's number. Noticing that everyone is acting strangely, she wonders if she said something wrong, and Maki quietly whispers that their number exchange was supposed to be a secret. She stiffens as she remembers, then awkwardly begins heading back to her seat while many of their male classmates stare at him. He then receives a message from Umi suggesting that they go out again someday. Later after school, he ends up walking with both Umi and Yu. Yu then invited Umi along because she isn't used to hanging out alone with boys. Umi and Maki greet each other stiffly, carefully hiding the fact that they have already been friends for some time. Yu and Umi notice that Nina has been tailing them, so they decide to make a run for it, and Maki ends up grabbing Yu's hand before rushing forward. Nina notices from her hiding spot and angrily steps out. They end up splitting up with Umi and Maki running in a different direction from Yu. Yu messages both of them, asking where they should meet up, and Maki offers his place since it's nearby. Umi immediately scolds him for inviting a girl to his apartment. Still, they eventually end up at his place, and Umi asks how Yu and Maki ended up exchanging numbers. After telling her the story, they apologize to Umi for not being honest from the start. Umi tells them to come closer, and when they do, she flicks them both on the forehead as a form of punishment. They then return to the matter at hand, and Yu apologizes to Maki again. She admits that her actions were thoughtless, but Maki apologizes as well and explains his fear of being in large groups. He also admits that he really just wanted to spend the day with his friend. Yu smiles in understanding since it seems that Maki truly values that friend. This causes both Maki and Umi to blush, and Umi quickly stands up, insisting that they should head home now since the matter has been settled. Yu is about to follow her but stops and extends her hand, asking Maki if they can start being friends today. One morning when Maki walks into the classroom, Yu is the first to approach and greet him. As he awkwardly answers her, Nina approaches them and asks why Yu is referring to Maki by his first name. Yu explains that they managed to hash things out and are now friends. Murmurs from their classmates begin filling the room, as many don't think it's possible for Yu to be friends with Maki. Nina tries to get more answers from Yu, but she dodges her questions. Meanwhile, Maki reads a message from Umini apologizing for Yu's forwardness. During lunch, Maki shows them a nice spot to eat that not many students know about. As he cleans the spot, he recalls what happened earlier. Yuan approached him and asked if they could eat lunch together. Umini walked over to check on them, while Maki could clearly feel the scorn from the gazes of his male classmates. Yu had just finished explaining why she thought having lunch with Maki today would be a good idea, but Umi mentioned that Maki looked too nervous about the prospect. Yu then decided to invite Umi along as well. She reasoned that it was perfect because Umi had been with them before. Seeing how much Yu wanted this, he decided to agree, which is how he ended up in his current situation, sitting in his secret lunch spot with both Umi and Yu. Yu notices that Maki's lunch looks really good, so she offers to trade some of her food for a few of his items. She learns that Maki even cooked his lunch today since his mother is often busy with work. Yu becomes even more impressed when she eats the omelet, which instantly makes Umi curious as well, so she asks for a taste too. When she finally takes a bite, she feels insecure because Maki can make good food. After lunch, Yu gets excited when Maki tells her that he makes sweets as well. Maki even mentions that his most recent success was a banana pancake souffle, which makes Yu feel she cannot compete since souffles seem difficult to make. Hui tries to cheer her up, and Maki explains that it's actually a lot easier than it sounds. Yu pouts because now she really wants to try some, so Maki offers to make some for her someday. Yu cheers, and the idea of getting pancakes excites her. She decides she cannot wait any longer and asks if she can come over today, and if Lumi can tag along as well. When Maki agrees, she feels really happy and runs off to buy some tea. Once alone with Maki, Lumi mentions how much of a good kid Yu is, and Maki agrees since he always knew Yu was nice and cheerful. However, now that he is getting to know her better, Lumi guesses that Maki has finally noticed her dog-like personality. Hude asks if he isn't getting into too much trouble by being friends with Yu. Maki mentions that he was an outcast to begin with, so he doesn't see any issues so far. Still, Lumi insists that he let her know if anything happens. She says that anything can happen when you are friends with the prettiest girl in class. Maki feels bad that Umi considers Yu the prettiest and puts herself down. Someone started that idea in class, and Umi feels like it's pretty accurate due to how cute Yu's personality is as well. Maki is about to voice his thoughts, but Umi adds that she is confident that Maki will come to love Yu as well. When Yu comes back, Maki studies both girls and wonders if Umi meant coming to love Yu as a friend. In the girls' changing room, Nina asks Yu about her sudden interest in Maki, and Yu easily answers that she finds Maki to be a nice person. She mentions his other good qualities, and Yun concludes that Maki reminds her a lot of Umi. After class, the girls arrive at his house, and he serves them banana souffle pancakes. He moves back to the kitchen as the girls dig in, and they are amazed by how good the pancakes taste. Yu mentions that she often messes up recipes, and Umi tells her it's because she tends to skip details. Yu teases Umi by reminding her that the Valentine's treats she once made turned into charcoal. Maki is surprised to hear that they made Valentine chocolates, and Umi explains that it was just the girls giving each other friendship chocolates. Maki recalls that they mentioned attending Tachibana Middle School, which is known as an all-girls school meant for elites, so he wonders why they decided to transfer. Later, all three of them start playing video games, and Maki is amazed at how quickly Yu picks up the controls. Yu even discovers a special attack and manages to beat Umi. When she does it again, she takes out Maki. He becomes curious, and Yu shows him how to execute the move. Umi quietly watches how close Yu and Maki have become. Later that evening, when the girls head home, Yu suddenly remembers that she wanted to treat Maki to a meal. Umi tells her to just ask Maki directly, but this time she doesn't want to tag along with them. Yu decides to call Maki, and when he picks up, she asks if he is free on Friday. Once she gets off the phone, Umi tries to look cheerful and asks if Maki agreed to go with her. However, Yu shares that Maki mentioned he has plans with someone. Umi feels her heart clench because she knows Maki reserved that day for her, so she quickly tells Yu that she forgot her phone and runs back to Maki's place. When Maki answers the door, he is surprised to see Umi looking flustered. Suddenly, she pinches his nose and tells him that she'll see him tomorrow before rushing off again. The next day after class, Umi is at his apartment and they are playing games like usual. They talk about a manga series they both follow, and Maki mentions that he recently bought the last volume. This makes Umi want to stop playing so they can read it together instead, since Maki had admitted to not reading it yet. They read the romance story together, and it doesn't take them long to reach the end. The two of them become teary-eyed due to the touching conclusion of the manga. Maki closes the volume, happy that the ending felt like a proper conclusion. Umi is still overwhelmed with emotion, so she wants to read the whole series from the beginning again. Soon, the two of them begin binge reading the series. Hours pass and Maki decides to make coffee for both of them. When he asks if Umi would like some, he turns and spots her fast asleep in his bed. He kneels by the bedside and smiles softly at her since she looks completely comfortable in his room. Eventually, he begins to feel sleepy himself and drifts off to sleep. Later, Masaki tries to wake Maki up, and when she does, he does not recognize her voice and thinks it is Umi. Still half asleep, he apologizes for dozing off, only to finally realize that Masaki is there. Masaki immediately demands an explanation for why a girl is sleeping on his bed. After a while, Masaki calls Umi's parents and explains the situation to them. By this time, Umi is already awake, and the two of them wait nervously for Masaki to end the phone call. When Masaki finally ends the call, they are shocked to see that she seems to be in a good mood. Masaki tells Umi that since it is already late, her parents decided it would be best for her to stay the night. She then insists that Umi go ahead and take a shower, reassuring her that she will provide a pair of pajamas for her to wear. Umi is hesitant but eventually agrees and runs off to prepare for bed. Maki thinks he has nothing to worry about and is about to return to his room, but his mother suddenly grabs him by the head since he still needs to explain everything to her. After hearing the explanation, Masaki finally understands why the house always smells good whenever she comes home. She then asks how long Umi has been coming over. Intending to clear up any misunderstandings, Maki admits that they started hanging out in the apartment about 2 months ago. However, he quickly adds that no funny business has been going on since they are just friends. Masaki believes that Maki didn't do anything inappropriate, but she reminds him that Umi is a teenage girl, so it is important for him to remain mindful of his actions. Eventually, he returns to his room and it doesn't take long for Umi to enter. Instead of seeing her in his mother's clothes, he is surprised to see her wearing some of his clothes instead, since Masaki's pajamas didn't fit her. He decides it would be best for her to use the bed while he sleeps in the living room, so he makes a move to leave and give her space to settle in. Umi quickly pulls him back, telling him that she is fully awake now, so she wants to chat for a little while longer. He ends up sitting on the bed with her and she teases him for making her spend the night. Maki blames her for that, since she was the one who was hard to wake up, but he also admits that he shares part of the responsibility. Umi jokes that they are a couple of bad kids and Maki can't help but agree. He then opens up about Yu since he wonders if it would be okay for them to tell Yu about their friendship, especially since they always pretend not to know each other when the three of them hang out together. Umi admits that it will be hard to keep up the charade for too long, so she decides that she will wait for the right time to tell Yu the truth. Maki agrees to let Umi handle it, then announces that he wants to head to bed. Before he reaches the door, Umi tells him good night, admitting that she was actually nervous to say it out loud, which causes Maki to blush. When Maki settles down in the living room, his mother invites him to sleep in her room instead. The next day, Maki heads to Umi's house so he can apologize to her parents. When the door opens, Sora, Umi's mother, greets both of them with a kind smile. Maki doesn't hesitate to introduce himself properly, and Sora warmly welcomes them into the house. Once she serves them drinks, she tells Umi that she needs to at least inform them about her whereabouts so they will not worry. Umi apologizes sincerely, and Maki also promises to make sure Umi heads home on time next time. Sora then becomes excited and asks Maki how he ended up becoming close to Umi. She shares that Umi had talked about him before, but she couldn't get many details about him, so now feels like the perfect opportunity to learn more. Umi quickly tries to stop the conversation from progressing, which makes Sora tease her by saying that she only wants to learn how Maki and Umi got together. Umi immediately flushes at the implication and tells Maki not to entertain Sora any further. She offers to peel him some peaches instead, which only makes Sora tease her even more for being sweet to Maki. As Umi busies herself with slicing the peach, Sora turns to Maki and asks him to continue being a good friend to Umi because she's a really kind girl. Maki agrees without hesitation. Sora then becomes excited again and suggests that next time Maki should have a sleepover at their house so she can make sure they are safe. Umi overhears the conversation and hurriedly slices the peaches so she can stop Sora from suggesting any more outrageous ideas, but Sora continues to cling to Maki for support, which only frustrates Umi even more. At school during the week, a class begins discussing who will become the class representatives for the upcoming sports festival. Since no one wants to volunteer, the teacher brings out a lottery box so that all of them can pick out a piece of paper. Unfortunately, Maki is the one who ends up winning for the boys. His male classmates immediately begin making fun of him because they feel that the female representative will end up babysitting him. Even Nina, who doesn't like Maki very much, feels that the class is being too harsh on him. Umi also silently fumes in her seat. The girls then start picking their lots, relieved that so far none of them have drawn the winning slip, but then Yu suddenly marches to the front of the room and decides to ask them why they all seem to hate Maki. After Yu asks the class why they dislike Maki, her classmates avoid her gaze. Yu then asks Mickey if she can volunteer to be the female representative. Mickey seems hesitant since they had already decided how to pick the representatives, but this is the better alternative. Mickey asks Maki if this is okay and he agrees. but then Umi suddenly reveals that she just won the lottery. She reassures everyone that she doesn't mind taking the role. He tries to argue that the role can be given to her, but Umi lightly taps her on the head to calm her down. She tells you that while her intentions are good, she might have taken things a bit too far since the class now looks uneasy. He realizes that she caused trouble again and apologizes to everyone and to Maki for putting him on the spot. With things settled, Umi announces that the roles of representatives will be taken by her and Maki. During the representatives meeting, Maki praises Umi for de-escalating the situation. She basks in his praise, and he decides to let her enjoy it this time. However, Umi tells him that Yu is the amazing one for nearly jeopardizing her reputation. Umi says she finds Yu admirable for getting angry on someone else's behalf. In her case, she always tries to keep the atmosphere positive, so she feels she couldn't have done what Yu just did. Tomoe, the student council president, walks in and greets everyone. She begins the discussion about the school festival, but Maki finds himself thinking about Umi. To make up for homeroom, he decides to do his best for the festival. After the meeting, Yu runs up to Umi and thanks her for calming her down during homeroom because she might have regretted her words later. Umi pinches her cheeks and returns the thanks. She doesn't tell Yu that she actually wanted to work with Maki, but instead says that Yu prevented a bad pair of representatives. Yu smiles because Umi understands her. She recalls that Umi has always been her knight since they were little, causing Umi to giggle at the old title. The next day, Umi and Maki reveal that their class will be in charge of decorations, which causes everyone to groan. Umi tells the class that if they are proactive enough, cosplay on the day of the festival isn't completely off the table. The class assumes that she is offering to cosplay herself, but she quickly corrects them by saying that Yu and Nina will be the ones cosplaying. Yu complains, but Umi replies that she will act as the producer, and she intends to make full use of Yu's cuteness to secure first place. Umi then tries to get ideas from the class, but no one seems to have any suggestions. Nervously, Maki raises his hand and Umi encourages him to share his idea. After class, Maki manages to suggest creating mosaic art using cans. However, he is completely exhausted since he used up all his social energy just to speak up. Maki admits that he feels relieved that Umi is his partner because he believes that if it had been anyone else, his mirrors would have gotten the best of him. Umi hands him the lottery paper she drew during homeroom. When Maki opens it, he sees that it is blank, meaning Umi never actually won. Maki is amazed that Umi managed to think of a way to protect both him and Yu in the middle of the chaos during homeroom. Umi is surprised that Maki isn't scolding her for cheating. Maki reasons that he wouldn't have if her intentions weren't good. He then writes the word winner on the lottery paper and hands it back to her, telling Umi that he is glad she won. The next day, preparations for the school festival begin in full swing, and Yu takes charge of sorting the cans. Meanwhile, Maki and Umi focus on designing the artwork. Maki compliments Umi's sketch, saying that he believes it will work perfectly for what they had planned. Suddenly, Yu bursts into the room because several of the bottles are extremely dirty and even have cigarette butts inside them. Maki decides to set those bottles aside so they can wash them later. Yu then notices the manga they are using as a reference and asks if she can try drawing something herself. After a while, Maki is amazed by Yu's illustration skills since she manages to draw something that looks dynamic and incredibly detailed. As Yu talks about how much she misses drawing, Umi looks a little conflicted. Still, she decides that Yu should be the one in charge of handling the artwork, while Yu's previous role is assigned to Nina. Yu becomes excited about her new responsibility and tells both Maki and Umi that they should all do their best. None of them notices that Umi's hands are trembling as she quietly crumples her own artwork behind her back. Days pass and everyone stays busy with festival preparations. One evening, Umi helps Yu refine the drawings, which they then present to Maki the next day. While Maki looks at the artwork in amazement, Umi quietly feels a bit disappointed. During one of their breaks, Umi shows some of the girls Yu's artwork, and they are amazed by how talented Yu is. Umi jokes that Yu is talented at everything except studying, which earns laughter from the group. The girls then take the opportunity to thank Umi for resolving the issue during homeroom. They acknowledge that they have been too harsh toward Maki, so they understand why Yu became so upset. Umi smiles and tells them that Maki is working extremely hard for their class now, so all they need to do is support him as much as possible. She takes her leave but then receives a message from Maki. Maki thanks her for all her hard work and tells her that they don't need to hang out this Friday since he feels that Umi deserves a break. On Friday, Maki ends up working on pixelizing Yu's artwork for the festival. While working, he can't help but let his mind drift to Umi. He decides to call her, and she actually answers the phone after stepping out of a karaoke session. Maki tells her that it doesn't feel right making adjustments on his own, so he called wondering if she would like to come over and help him. Umi smiles in his attempt to hide the fact that he actually misses her, so she teases him about it. Maki gets flustered and announces that he'll just work on the designs himself. He's about to hang up, but Umi stops him and admits that she actually misses him too, so she would like to come over. Yu steps out, worried since Umi didn't head back inside. Umi tells you that she needs to head home due to an emergency, so Yu lets her go, but feels that something is off. When Umi finally comes over, she seems oddly happy that Maki needs her. She walks over to his work and is pleased with the amount of progress he has already made. Both of them are unaware that Yu decided to follow. After a bit of work, Umi asks if it's okay for her to lie down for a bit, and Maki even tells her she is free to nap if she wants. Umi teases him, even using a suggestive tone to be playful, but Maki argues that she had slept fine at his place the other day. Umi tells him that she isn't scared because if he tries anything, she already has permission from Misaki to beat him up. Maki takes the laptop from her and continues his work as he grumbles about Misaki's meddling. As Maki continues to work, Umi suddenly leans on him and starts to confess something. She isn't able to finish because the doorbell suddenly rings and Maki sees that Yu is there. Umi hides while Maki opens the door, and to his surprise, Yu actually calls out for Umi. Umi reveals herself and tries to explain things, but Maki intervenes and asks Yu when she figured out that both of them had been hanging out in secret. Yu reveals that she had found it odd that Umi had been making several excuses to skip hangouts, and when she visited, she noticed that Umi was oddly comfortable. Despite Maki telling Yu that the fault lies on his side, Yu admits that she is hurt that Umi had kept this kind of secret from her. She asks Umi if she is the only one who thinks of them as best friends, since it looks like Umi does not trust her enough to keep a secret. Umi tries to explain herself, but she hesitates. Umi thinks back to her friendship with Yu and how Yu had always been viewed as the more desirable one between them. She remembers having other friends, but even those friends would turn her down to spend a day with Yu. Instead of telling Yu, she decides not to explain herself anymore and prepares to leave the apartment. She apologizes to Maki for bringing him into her issues. When Yu offers to walk home with her, she declines the offer and leaves. When the door shuts, Yu tearfully looks at Maki because she doesn't know what to do. On Monday, Maki looks over his chat with Umi. He had sent her messages over the weekend, but Umi left him on read. He is shocked when Umi and Yu enter the classroom together and greet him as usual. For a moment, he thinks things are okay, but then Yu suddenly messages him an apology and asks if he managed to talk to Umi. The day continues like normal, with Umi acting as if nothing had happened, while Yu and Maki message back and forth. Maki learns that Umi has yet to address the issue with Yu, but still went to pick her up in the morning like she usually does. Yu assumed Maki had at least talked to Umi about things. However, she shares that Umi messaged her to forget about last Friday. Later in the week, Maki feels bad about how things are with Umi. He knows their secret friendship was a burden on its own, but recent events made him realize that Umi has several other secrets weighing her down. He decides to confront her and sees her talking with the rest of the design team on the roof. He asks if Umi can see him in private, which catches the rest of the class's attention. Umi tries to decline, claiming she has a lot of work, but Yu insists that she speak with Maki and that she and everyone else can handle her share of the work. Maki brings her to the storeroom and she immediately scolds him for potentially exposing their friendship, though Maki tells her that it was her fault for never replying to his messages. He then asks for her help with work, and they begin sorting some of the cans they have cleaned. Umi feels awkward and asks if Maki is curious about what happened. Maki asks her if she's fine talking about it, and Umi admits that she isn't. She's aware she has a lot of things bottled up and that she needs to talk about them eventually. Maki shares that he's actually curious about it, but he doesn't want to force Umi to share things she isn't willing to share, even if it means she will never tell him about it. He's shocked when Umi suddenly hugs him from behind. Umi tells Maki that he is too nice for his own good, which is a bad thing because people might take advantage of him someday. She even admits that she is taking advantage of him right now. Maki tries to turn, but she tells him not to. She finally tells him that she wants to tell him the truth about everything, but asks if it's possible for him to wait until after the school festival. Maki tells her that she's free to do whatever she wants. She thanks him and promises to fix things with Yu as well. The day of the festival finally arrives and the entire school is brimming with excitement. Even the mosaic art that their class made looks spectacular the moment they set it up. During a break, Maki and Umi rest on the roof, and Maki tentatively asks if it's okay for them to hold hands. Umi asks if this is Maki's way of cheering her up. She takes his hand and thanks him because he is helping her relax. They let go the moment Yu bursts onto the roof with two of their friends from elementary school. She wants to introduce them to Maki, but Umi corrects Yu and tells him that they only ever considered Yu their friend, but they were never really Umi's friends. Both girls look guilty, and Umi finally decides to tell Maki and Yu about her inferiority complex. In the past, Umi was great friends with Manaka and Sanae since they were in elementary school. One afternoon, while walking home, she spotted Yu all alone. She told her friends to head home without her and followed Yu to a park. That was the first time they met. Yu had just moved into town and had no friends. Unlike now, Yu was actually bullied for her odd hair and eye color in her previous town, so she was worried about making friends, which is why she had no one to walk home with. Umi decided that she would be Yu's first friend, so she offered her hand and promised that they would walk home together from then on. After that, Umi started introducing Yu to her friends. Manaka and Sanae were instantly captivated by her since they found her pretty. Yu was thankful because of Umi she discovered that it was easy to make friends. She gradually started to smile more, and Umi noticed that people were drawn to Yu's cheerful presence. Things went well until they reached middle school. Yu was happy to still be in the same class as Umi in middle school, though she expressed disappointment that Manaka and Sanae weren't with them. The girls were amused by her usual behavior and joked around until it dawned on Yu that the four of them wouldn't get to spend as much time together anymore. Still, Umi reassured her that all Yu had to do was be herself and she wouldn't be lonely. Umi watched as Yu introduced herself to the class and easily made friends with everyone who spoke to her. She felt a bit left out but knew she could be just as likable if she actually tried, but she just didn't want the attention. She overheard some female classmates admiring how pretty Yu was. They'd also mentioned how they wanted to brag about being friends with her. At first, Umi did not understand the implication, but as middle school went on, it became clear to her that Yu was the star of their year and Umi was in a position that everyone wanted. Everyone began talking behind her back, saying she did not deserve to be beside Yu. One day, she wanted to get the old group back together, so she asked her friends to watch a movie with her during the weekend since she had 4 tickets, mentioning that she would ask Yu later. However, Sanae and Manaka declined, saying they already had plans that day. On the weekend, Umi decided to watch the movie alone since it didn't feel right to invite only Yu without the others. However, she caught sight of the 3 of them hanging out without her. She followed them and overheard their conversation. It turned out that her friends had told Yu that Umi couldn't make it because she wanted to study, and Yu didn't even confirm things with her. She felt betrayed by her own friends since she discovered they also wanted her position in Yu's life. At present, Umi finally admits to Yu that she lied about the tuition being too high in their old school. She actually wanted to transfer because she wanted to get away from their friends and start a new life, but she was surprised that Yu decided to transfer with her. Yu argues that it's because they are best friends. While she cares about the others, to her, Umi will always be her priority. Umi feels uneasy about the compliment and admits that while she is happy Yu thinks highly of her, it hurts her to hear it. She reveals that she confronted Sanae and Manaka during their graduation. They had admitted that they wanted to get closer to Yu than she was, which essentially ended her friendship with them. Umi tells Yu that while Yu is popular, Umi is the only person she has ever truly called a friend, which made others target her position. She explains that even now, people who start talking to her gradually begin focusing on Yu the longer they spend time together. Maki then realizes that the reason Umi wanted to keep their friendship a secret from Yu was that she didn't want to share a friend she had finally made for herself. Umi asks Yu if she loves her, which Yu affirms without hesitation. Umi admits that she loves Yu as well, but also confesses that she hates her just as much. Before saying anything further, Umi tells them that she's going to cool off for a bit and runs away from them. Yu is about to stop her but decides not to upon seeing her expression. Maki calmly tells Yu that he will be the one to check on Umi since there are things he wants to tell her as well. Without waiting for a response, Maki leaves Yu with her old friends and goes to search for Umi. He finds her in an abandoned classroom. At first, he jokes about her sulking before taking a chair and placing it in front of her. He commends her for holding on to her feelings for so long and handling the situation well, praising her for doing a good job. Umi begins to tear up and asks for more praise, and Maki gently places a reassuring hand on her head, allowing her to be vulnerable. Meanwhile, Nina makes her way to the rooftop and is surprised to see Sanae and Manaka heading down with sullen expressions. She finds it suspicious, so she decides to continue up and finds Yu looking troubled. She stays near her and tries to get Yu to open up. Surprisingly, Yu admits that moving forward, she needs to be more mindful of things. Back in the classroom, the weight of what Umi had said begins to sink in, and she realizes she had been a jerk to Yu. She hates herself because she purposely kept Yu out of things, which is exactly what she hated about her old friends, making her a hypocrite. Maki tries to comfort her and suggests that he and Umi should spend some time apart. He wants Umi to prioritize making up with Yu over their friendship for now, feeling that she should spend more time with Yu to properly reconcile with her. He clarifies that it's not the end of their friendship, but they should at least hold off on hanging out until things are settled. He starts worrying that Umi might get the wrong idea, so he keeps insisting that nothing will really change between them since they are still classmates. However, Umi covers his mouth so she can have her turn to speak. She asks him what he feels about her and whether he would miss her if they stopped hanging out. Maki answers honestly that he would really miss her, but he still wants her to make things right with Yu. She smiles, feeling that it's a lot to ask, but she gains some clarity on what she needs to do and asks him to join her back on the roof. The two of them return to the rooftop hand in hand, and Yu comments on how close Maki and Umi have become. Umi agrees and reveals that their friendship is still relatively new, but Maki already means a lot to her as a friend. Yu asks if Maki means more to her than she does at the moment. Umi shakes her head and tells Yu that there is no ranking between her and Maki. She bows and apologizes for not telling her everything earlier. Yu finally shouts at her for being an idiot and admits that she was scared about where their friendship was heading since she thought Umi no longer wanted to be friends. For a moment, she felt like Maki had taken her place as Umi's best friend, and it hurt to think that Umi was favoring him. The two of them hug it out, now that the truth is finally out and they can begin understanding each other better. Umi even admits that she and Maki will stop hanging out for a while. Yu thinks the decision is stupid, but Umi explains that she feels it's the only way for her to properly move forward and sort out her insecurities, and it seems fairer to Yu that she make up for lost time. Yu holds Umi's shoulder, and for a moment it looks like she'll agree to the plan, only for her to happily decline it. Yu reasons that they are fine and that she would feel bad if Maki couldn't spend time with Umi for their sake. Umi says that nothing will change between them if this happens, but Yu is confident that things will be better if they all just become friends. However, she gives them a condition they must follow. Later, Umi and Maki find themselves holding hands while walking around the school. Yu had them do so because of her condition, so they could become real friends. Umi is surprised that Yu has this side to her. Meanwhile, Maki has a feeling that other people think they are doing some kind of dare, which isn't far off. Nina takes several photos of them and even promises to send Umi all the pictures later. Umi spots a haunted house and urges Maki to go with her, though he admits he isn't very good with those kinds of attractions. He gets pulled along, and as expected, Maki struggles through the experience while Umi enjoys watching him panic. When they make it out, she makes fun of his worn-out expression. Still, she hands him a cola as an apology for the trouble. She then looks out the window and admires their mosaic art. Seeing how grand it looks, she starts to feel confident they might actually win the prize for the festival. She then spots Yu talking to their old friends in the courtyard and smiles. Later, Umi and Maki are in the house, but they are keenly aware of Yu's presence, even if Yu insists on acting like she isn't there. During the festival, aside from the hand-holding, Yu had insisted on joining their hangouts just to see what they were up to. So that is how the three of them ended up at Maki's house, with Maki and Umi playing games as usual, while Yu does her best to act like a ghost and observe them. They get so into their game that they actually forget Yu is there for a moment. However, when Umi finally loses and they begin planning for next week, they both remember her. Umi finally addresses Yu and tells her that she realizes she has too much fun with Maki, so she would like to continue spending her Fridays with him. In turn, Yu says she doesn't mind at all since this means there are no more secrets between them, and they can talk about more things moving forward. The two of them embrace, now fully reconciled. When they pull away, Yu decides it's about time for her to head home. Umi offers to leave as well, but Yu insists that Maki might feel lonely without Umi, so the two of them can chill together a little longer. When Maki mentions that he actually doesn't mind if both of them leave, Yu insists that he does and that Umi should stay with him, not really giving him an option to turn her down. With Yu gone, the two of them decide to watch a movie, and Maki sneezes somewhere in the middle of it. Umi decides to help warm him up by draping a blanket over herself and offering for Maki to share it with her. Though he is nervous, he eventually scoots over, and the two of them end up sitting shoulder to shoulder. Umi then asks if she can start calling him Maki, and he lets her, while also calling her Umi in return this time. This earns him a smack because Umi is caught off guard when he suddenly uses her first name as well. Despite everything, she is still smiling as she scolds him. Maki decides to be honest and tells Umi that when she smiles, he actually finds her to be the prettiest girl he has ever seen. She blushes but hides her nervousness by teasing him, saying that he must be in love with her. Maki ends up walking Umi home, but before she enters, she decides to ask him something that has been bothering her. She decides to ask him if he really likes her. Maki tries to ask what she means, which causes Umi to pout. Maki then turns the question around so Umi can understand what it feels like to be asked something like that. She admits that it's a complicated answer, but says that she doesn't think she likes him. Maki feels down for a moment, but is surprised when Umi suddenly kisses his cheek. When she pulls away, she tells him that she loves him and that a kiss on the lips can happen once he admits that he likes her back. She finally heads inside her house, leaving Maki conflicted. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to see what happens next.